Removal. Step 1. Prepping for removal. Begin by ensuring the ignition is switched off. Set the steering to straight ahead. Disconnect the battery. Use a lifting platform that is capable of raising the body separately from the wheels. Lift the body at the lifting points prescribed by the vehicle manufacturer. Raise the vehicle. Removal. Step 2. Wheel removal. Start by removing the wheel's lug nuts. Once the lug nuts are removed, carefully take off the wheel. Repeat this step on the alternate side of your vehicle. Removal. Step 3. Remove the sensor lines. Remove the bolts from the fender well. Remove the push pins from the fender well, exposing the sensor junction block. Mark the connections to ensure proper placement on reassembly. Remove the retaining clip and unplug the sensor lines. Remove the sensor lines from the brackets. Removal. Step 4. Disconnecting air lines. Begin by unplugging the air spring valve wiring. Then disconnect the air line and the mounting nuts from the air block and mark the lines. Removal. Step 5. Removing exhaust. Remove the lower shock bolts. Remove the air spring bolts from the lower control arm. Support the exhaust and loosen and remove the exhaust flange bolts. Support the exhaust while removing the rubber hangers and remove the exhaust. Removal. Step 6. Remove the drive shaft. With the exhaust removed, remove the cross-member safety bar. Remove the heat shield to access the pillow block. Remove the 2 bolts from the pillow block. Remove the rear drive shaft bolts. Slide the drive shaft toward the front of the vehicle and remove. Removal. Step 7. Removing the heat and rock shields. Loosen the bolts and remove the remaining shields. Remove the bolts from the rock guards. Remove the rock guards. Removal. Step 8. Disconnecting brake caliper. Remove the caliper clip and remove the bolt from the brake sensor. On the right side of the vehicle, disconnect the brake sensor cable. Remove the cap from the caliper mounting bolt and loosen the bolt. Remove the brake caliper and suspend with zip ties. Removal. Step 9. Remove cross-member mounting bolts. Loosen the filler neck clamp. Make sure you drain the filler hose of gasoline. Find a suitable method to clamp the filler neck closed. With the vehicle on the lift, support the cross-member assembly on jack stands. Remove the rear cross-member mounting bolts. Raise the vehicle to access the springs. Removal. Step 10. Removing shock assembly. Locate, loosen, and remove the sway bar bolts. Raise the sway bar towards the rear of the vehicle. Loosen and remove the bolts from the air reservoir. Remove the old air spring and reservoir. With the air spring removed from the vehicle, remove the air line from the air spring. Install. Step 1. Replacing the cross member. Lower the sway bar into position and tighten the bolts. Lower the car onto the cross member assembly. Tighten the cross member mounting bolts. Attach the fuel tank filler hose and tighten the clamp. Install. Step 2. Installing heat and rock shields. Install the rock guards. Install the rearmost heat shield that goes above the drive shaft. Install. Step 3. Installing drive shaft. Slide the drive shaft back into the vehicle. Reinstall the 2 bolts that hold the drive shaft and the pillow block in place, making sure that these bolts loosely support the drive shaft. Install the remaining heat shield that goes above the drive shaft. Reinstall the rear drive shaft bolts. Tighten the pillow block bolts. Install the heat shield that hides the pillow block. Reinstall the cross-member safety bar. Install. Step 4. Installing the exhaust. Support the exhaust while reinstalling the rubber hangers. Reinstall the exhaust flange bolts. Install. Step 5. Installing the sensor lines. Replace the sensor lines to the brackets. Replace the retaining clip and connect the sensor lines. Replace the push pins in the fender well, covering the sensor junction. Replace the bolts to the fender well. Remember to repeat this step on the alternate side of your vehicle. Install. Step 6. Reconnecting the brake caliper. Reinstall the brake pad. Reinstall the rear brake caliper, then tighten the bolts on the back side of the caliper. On the right side of the vehicle, reconnect the sensor connector, then reinstall the sensor bracket bolt. Install the retaining clip. Install. Step 7. Reconnecting air lines. Install the air lines back to the meter block. Install the meter block. Plug in the air ride wiring. Install. Step 8. Installing air springs. Please note, it may be necessary to use a jack for this step. Reinstall the lower shock bolt and tighten. Replace the retention clip with the new clip provided on the upper mount. It may be necessary to disconnect the rear trailing arm. Install the air spring, making sure the facing wheel sticker is facing the wheel. Line up the mount to the lower control arm. Engage the top clip. Install and tighten the air spring mounting bolts, ensuring the bolt goes through the e-brake hanger. Replace the trailing arm. Install the airline and connect the air spring valve wiring. Install. Step 9. Install tire. Install the tire and tighten the lug nuts to the manufacturer's specifications. Install. Step 10. Finishing the installation. Lower the vehicle to standard vehicle height from the lifting platform. Reconnect the battery. Install. Step 11. Testing. Start the engine and wait 2 minutes. Operate the raising function of the car's electronics. Initially lower the lifting platform slowly and only completely when the vehicle rises of its own accord. Check shock for leaks. It is strongly recommended that after this install, the vehicle gets in alignment for better performance and safety. Installation completed. Congratulations!